Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is Thursday, the 21st of April, 2022, and welcome to the Accelerate and Multiply Livestream. Now, today's guest is the founder of Buckle Bandage, the host of Switch Your Sitch podcast, trainer of Australia's elite football players, and has personally impacted more than 50,000 lives. And today she's going to show you how to have an amazing online presence. Would you please help me welcome our good friend, Katie Turner? Welcome.
Thank you. I do that.
Hey, we're in the presence of a superstar. It's a real pleasure. Now, I was learning more about Buckle Bandage, and there was a whole story behind Buckle Bandage. Could you unpack the story behind Buckle Bandage and how you brought this to life?
Yeah, so about 7 years ago when my daughter was little, here in Sydney, in Australia, the temperature gets up to 40 degrees in summer, and I was putting her in a car seat and felt this car seat buckle, and it was like, wow, that is hot. I just can't imagine what it does to a baby's skin. And so, being a problem solver, went about to look for a solution, and there wasn't currently anything on any public health website. It all said, put a blanket or a muslin cloth over it. Some people were saying put ice packs in the seat. So I approached a product designer who actually is a friend of mine who does furniture design, and sort of said, hey, Pat, do you think we can do something about this? And he's like, oh, it's really not my game. I'll mock you up an MVP and we'll go from there. And he looked into it and did a whole lot of legislative research into it, and actually came back and said, I want a piece of the pie. There's nothing globally out there that stops this problem of the seat buckles getting, we did infrared camera in the car, and it got up to 90 degrees Celsius on a 30-degree day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it is a real problem.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically 5 years later, we launched into the market with massive PR, free PR, because it was the first of its kind, to then a week later be hit with 6 weeks of torrential rain and floods.
Oh, welcome to business.
Yes, exactly. Welcome to business. So
I think for most parents, we understand that, and it's probably not until you're a parent that you really get how hot those buckles on the seats become. I was in Australia with my daughter, and the same thing, middle of summer, put her in the seat, and just that screaming, ah! Because you tend to pick up the plastic part of the buckle and you don't feel it, but once that metal touches the skin, it is crazy. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check it out, Buckle Bandage. Now, the real reason why we're here today is myself and so many other business people. We struggled to have a really good, solid online presence. And when I started my business, I had just come out of corporate. I'd been working with Emirates Airline, and then I go from being employed to becoming self-employed, and now nobody knows who I am. And I know what I do is I go and look for people online. Okay, I'm going to go and stalk them. I'm going to find them. I'm going to look at their posts. I'm going to check out their LinkedIn. I'm going to see what they're all about. But for a lot of people, they don't have that solid online presence. So in your eyes, what are the risks of not having a solid online presence in today's world?
There'll be no branding, basically. With no online presence, there is no branding in today's world. And it's imperative that every brand in 2022 has an online presence. We live in a world of, you say 6 degrees of separation. With the internet now, it's 1 degree of separation. So having a strong online brand is imperative to good brand structure.
Now, I know we're not allowed to say older generation, so I won't say older generation. I won't say the oldies, but there's a lot of people out there who really fear tech. So how do we go about bridging this gap to have this online presence so we can bridge our personal services or our business services to our customers, especially when we fear that tech side of things? What are you doing in the marketplace?
Yeah, look, this is where our business came in, because there was a real need in the market. I'm a little over 40 now, and I started in Bondi Radio. I opened a podcasting studio with my tech savvy business partner. I was business, he was tech. And a lot of people came to us with this, we know we need it, we have no idea where to start. And there was a real gap because the young guns are overly tech savvy. They grew up with a Apple in their hand, basically, and know how to use it. So there was a real communication gap between the tech and the business owners or even corporates. And there was also ghosting going on. People would promise them the world in terms of web design, and then halfway through would never deliver. They didn't understand it. They didn't put it in layman's terms of what was needed, and a real trust factor as well. So this is where our services came in. There was a real divide between, and obviously there's a technical visual aspect and a business aspect. So we're talking what we need from a business aspect, and our tech type guys are talking to us what they do behind the scenes and the back end of a website. I didn't even know what the back end was when I first started. And that's where we found a real niche of having a strategy component face to face, and then we deliver all of those pillars to our tech team and communicate that.
I was prepared coming into COVID-19, and I had a very strong online presence. And so for the years of hard work that I'd put into that, it served me really well during COVID. But I noticed a lot of people who had no online presence and only had a physical presence, a lot of their businesses disappeared. And it was scary to see how fast they disappeared, because even with big businesses in Australia, we can see the collapse of some of these big construction companies, billion-dollar businesses, but they've only got enough cash flow to survive for about 30 to 60 days. So a lot of small operators collapsed very early on during COVID-19 because they didn't have that presence. What are you seeing as the ultimate cost here? What is the real cost of not having this online presence?
Well, as you say, we see businesses disappear. The other thing that we saw was businesses doing it really poorly. So they knew that they had to get on, and they had their CEOs creating TikTok posts and Instagram and dancing with absolutely no brand relevance whatsoever. So having a poor online presence can be as bad as not having an online presence at all as well. So we did see that at the beginning of 2020, where everybody just went, we're going to be online. Okay, how do we do this? Poor setup, poor messaging.
Bad microphones,
bad backdrops, so we're seeing this now. We still like the raw content that social media comes, podcasting, live streaming. Look, there's, limited room for error there, but we are understanding that social media is so powerful in the messaging that we're sending, and it has to be on brand.
What I'm seeing as well is with people with their online presence, the way that they represent their brand, everything looks cheap. So the first thing, I used to have a video production company. We knew that sound was actually more important than the video. People would tolerate poor video quality, but poor sound quality. And what I saw through the COVID period and this, this transition, the videos were bad quality. And you looked at it and you went, this is cheap. That is not an expert. That is not an authority. That is not a premier product. And it looked cheap. And I saw these brands devaluing very quickly. Yeah. The other thing was people couldn't show up in front of the camera, and their sensory acuity is terrible. So it's like these people, you get on these Zoom calls, and I don't think I can do it here, but maybe I'll see how flexible I am. You get on the Zoom call, and you can only just see the top of their head, if you're lucky. And so it's like you feel like you're looking down on them. And all of a sudden, that personal brand image that they have quickly becomes diluted. And then I saw that next level as well. They were scrambling and being desperate to get on podcast, but they were unclear about their message. Yes. It wasn't structured. You couldn't understand it. There was no action step to follow through. And I quickly saw these people put a lot of content out there, but as quickly as they put it on there, they just disappeared from the face of the earth. There was no traction, and you turned it on, and that first interaction was like, you know what, this is not an expert, this is not an authority.
And you're exactly right. You're going out there with a message, and the market's becoming very saturated no matter what platform you're on, whether you're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, it's becoming very saturated. So your messaging has to be very, very clear, firstly.
And I think people spend so much time on there as well.
So yeah, we're all culprits of it. I'm, go on there for one thing, and I'm deep diving into, who won Bell's Beach Open or whatever it might be. So you go down a rabbit hole, but because of that saturation of the market, as I say to all of my clients when we do strategy, first and foremost is strategy, whether you're creating a podcast, social media content, a website, it all has to come down to what is that messaging. And most customers either need to be educated or entertained. And they're the two things that you should think about when offering content.
Yes. We call it edutainment. And some people want entertainment and other people want education. And then there's your blend. And I think we've got to understand, and hopefully we get some time to talk about psychographics. I talk to my clients, what do you want from me? They say, Daniel, we don't want jump around from you. We don't want rah-rah from you. If we want entertainment, if we want to jump around, we'll go to a concert. But when we come to you, we want education. And so I've become very clear over the years what my clients do and don't want from me. They might want it from somebody else. It's like Tony Robbins does a great job with the edutainment. He gets out the water pistol. He does that. He bangs the drums. He says, let Tony hear you. But if I say, let Daniel hear you, they'll say, hey, we don't want that from you. We just want this. And I think we're going to get no fluff. So 3 things that is very confusing for business people. Geographics, demographics, and psychographics. Can you give us a simple explanation of these 3, just so we can understand it from a practical viewpoint?
So your geographics is obviously your geolocation, where you're actually physically located, your demographics. And when I first went through university and I opened my very first business back in 2004, it was all demographics thrown down your neck. What's your customer's age? Where do they live? Who do they surround themselves with? So it was very much, you're in Crow's Nest, your customers are 34 years old, they work in a corporate job, and that was what you based your business structure on. And now, thank goodness, we've had to evolve because we live in an online world. So we can connect with somebody in Slovakia who has a similar interest or hobbies in us. It's not now restricted to the person that lives next door or in the same suburb or at the same school. So we're really into understanding, a day in a life. If you look at something like Amazon, when they walk into a boardroom to understand their customer, they have a seat for their avatar. And this is John Smith. John Smith is, he likes online gaming. He gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So they really psychographically analyze their customer as how is their product or service impacting their life? What impact is it creating? Where it's got to make their life somewhat easier. It's either going to save them money or time. Basically, they're the 2 big things that we've got to look at with our customer. How is our product or service saving them money or time?
There's one that I heard recently, and it was called ethnographics. And it was, when does the person actually buy? Where are they in the life cycle to buy? And it was a big breakthrough for me because when I started marketing my business, and I think a lot of coaches in a similar space to me feel frustrated because we know if people come to us at the start of their journey, they don't have to go through all the pain of the fears, the doubts, and the limiting beliefs. If only they would come to us at the start. But a lot of products like mine, we are the last thing that people will ever try. And once I understood that we tend to be at the end of the line, I could accept my position. So for an example, what people will do, they'll go acquire knowledge. They'll get all the skill. And then at about age 35 to 40, they look around and say, why is everybody more successful than me? And they've got the same education, they've got the same training, they've got the same business model, they've got the same mentors, they're listening to the same podcasts, they're reading the same books, and it's still not working. And then finally, they turn and look towards themselves as the last resort. They say, well, there's only one thing I haven't worked on. Myself. And for the majority of my customers, they come to me after that pain increases. So that's traditionally. But then what I did learn along the way is we could accelerate that a little bit earlier. And working with other clients and with our strategic partners, I realised with a lot of strategic partners, they teach education, knowledge and skills, and then what they identify early on in the journey is that people are held back by fears, doubts and limiting beliefs. And so when I partner with strategic alliances, early on in the stage, I can go from the last person at the last station and then come all the way back into the middle and say, meet them right here, which can accelerate that journey by about 5, 10, or even 15 years. And that was a big breakthrough for me, just understanding that ethnographic and when do they typically buy and how can we speed it up by partnering with other people where they identify this earlier on.
So the collaboration aspect. The other thing that I say to my clients is the biggest thing currently being traded on the internet is trust, right? So you have to, and like you say, to speed up that, that process is you have to build trust in what you do, and that's through the content that you're producing, whether that's podcasting, whether that's it's free content, so that your customer can actually, okay, you talk the talk, you walk the walk. I kind of trust this because most of our clients that finally come to us, their biggest setback is being burnt by other people who they've gone to for services. They've overpromised, underdelivered. I have in the past as well, hence why I started a business in it, is because I had one of my Facebook marketing guys actually go to jail on fraud counts. And I had no idea. I was throwing money at this guy and, that he wasn't even putting ads up. He was just doing posts and charging me for Facebook ads. So that was early in the piece. And I promised myself I have to get a lot more educated before and obviously bridging the gap there now.
So how can people accelerate this process? You're doing phenomenal with podcasts. You're teaching people about podcasting. What can we learn from you about podcasting so we can accelerate and we can start to have a better online presence?
Yeah, so we do everything actually. We do everything from web design, SEO, social content, LinkedIn content, podcast production, where we really want to be that one-stop shop that you go, hey, I know Katie, I trust what she's doing. And we always start with strategy, no matter what you're coming to me for. I've got an amazing team. It's not me, obviously. I'm strategy 100%. So every one of our clients that is onboarded, I do a virtual strategy session with them to really identify what is their product or service, what impact are they having on their customers' life, where do those customers live online? Because I don't want you to waste your money and time hitting every single platform if the psychographics of your customer aren't on TikTok, they're not on Facebook. Don't waste your time and energy there. Yeah, dancing.
I ain't there.
Who's never going to resonate with your product or service either. So, yeah, and that's the game changer that we've found, is that everybody has that strategy session. We're there to save time and money, but also understand who your customer is, where they live online, what impact you're having in their life. And then formulate a product or service behind that.
Now, where can our clients learn more about you and your work? What's your website?
So it's www.katieturnermedia.com. My podcast is Switch Your Sitch. So I've just had yourself on there. We're about to launch that Wednesday week. I've just done an amazing podcast with Ronnie Khan from Oz Harvest. Neil Perry, Paige Hadley, Dr. Munjed Al-Madeira. So it's really about people who have been in business from the startup phase or the growth state phase, what tips and tricks they can share. And also, that the journey isn't, roses the whole way. And as you know.
You're only telling me that now.
I know.
I'm only 25.
And that's what business does as well.
It does. Well, ladies and gentlemen, learn more about what Katie's doing. I'm going to put the website link in the show notes. Check it out, katieturnermedia.com, and also tune into the upcoming podcast. Katie, thank you so much for sharing your energy, your ideas, and your insights into business, and we really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Daniel. Look forward to seeing you again.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you go to Katie Turner's website straight away, and I'll also put the link in the show notes below. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. Ciao for now.
Thanks very much. Bye.